The top story this hour: National Electoral Board of Ethiopia starts announcing results. And Kenya's Lamu port ready to render cargo service to neighboring Ethiopia. A very warm welcome to Addis News Hour. I'm Solomon Danye. Thanks for joining me. The House of People's Representatives in its 16th regular session has unanimously approved the military cooperation agreements Ethiopia had signed with the governments of France and Italy. The House deliberated on the significance of the agreements based on detailed presentations tabled by the Defense State Minister Getachew Hailemaryam and the Foreign Affairs State Minister Birtukan Ayano. The Parliament has also discussed the 2019-20 audit report of several public institutions being tabled by the Office of the Federal Auditor General. The National Electoral Board of Ethiopia announces that it has received the results of 618 out of 942 constituencies. The board started to announce partial results of the elections on Tuesday. Board chairperson Birtukan Ayano on the occasion said various political parties had lodged complaints in 160 constituencies, and the board is investigating to come up with the solutions in the coming couple of days.
Some of
the complaints had not been filled in an organized manner, and that the parties had been called upon to rectify the situation. The board is prepared to provide legal support to the parties' grievances. Starting from tomorrow, the board will work to respond in 2 or 3 days. If we will find anything that will change the outcome of the election, then those constituencies with irregularities will be obliged to rerun the election.
My opinion, yes, Ethiopia has been generous throughout this decade-long negotiation. I do believe in principle Ethiopia has the right, it's a sovereign country, and has the right to develop itself using its own share of water that originates in its own territory. Because they are still holding their colonial. I think that fear, 2 points, it shows exactly who Egypt and Ethiopia is. Historically, one is relying on the Pan-Africanism value. The other one is showing Egypt, Africa for Egypt, it has been always the last source. Their politics is, it's either nationalism or Pan-Arabism.
Founder and director of the leading Pan-African communications consultancy Ethiopian Group, Nicholas Pomping, called for intensified efforts to fully capacitate African national media for the well-being of the continent. Nicholas exclusively told ETV English that media has the power to change the old narrative of Africa. Alola Teklemaryam reports.
APO Group is a leading Pan-African communications consultancy. Established in 2007, the company said it has been assisting private and public organizations in sharpening their reputation and increasing their brand equity in target countries. The rising influence of international media organizations in the African continent seems to be a concern to the prominent lawyer and media expert Nicholas Pomping.
That's, by the way, the issue we have as a continent. We are receiving all those international media. I do not see a reaction which is at the level it should be. I mean, again, media are important. I don't know. Maybe for some people it's when the media landscape will be so poor that you won't be able to rely on it, that people will realize what they have lost and how important it was. Maybe it's one of those things when you have to lose it to realize how important it was, maybe for some people. But I mean, media landscape, a healthy media landscape is extremely important for governance, for democracy, for development, for health. We mentioned that for WHO, etc. So we cannot just witness that and just wait for the international to take over. And I also mentioned that question about sovereignty. It's a huge problem on its own. I mean, and for instance, government should see that. Even with their even if they are only focusing on their own interests, they should see that it's not good for them if the international media are shaping the opinion in their country.
Talking to ETV, Nicolas highlighted what the APO group and the Getty image agreed to change the wrong narrative of Africa.
Basically, make more and more content, both image, press releases, but also video, in fact, because Getty Image also distribute video about Africa available to the international media, so they can see the real face of the continent. In other words, the partnership between APO Group and Getty Images is about changing the image of the African continent, one image and one press release at a time, if you wish.
The chairperson further expressed the need to intensify efforts to rebuild the good image of Africa.
I've been surprised a little bit, surprised by the image the international media are conveying about the African continent. They tend to display the continent as only conflict and poverty and those kind of bad news. While in fact, as a journalist, we know that, and I knew back in 2007 when I created the company, that there were already very good news about the continent. It's just that those international media never had the access to those information. So I've decided to build that company really to change the narrative about the continent, to influence the narrative about the continent. And I used a very simple but efficient way, which was to make good news, neutral and good news, available to the international media.
The Ethiopian Ministry of Defense graduates were soldiers who've been receiving basic military trainings in one of its famous military training centers. According to the ministry, the newly graduated soldiers have been given a 4-month rigorous training at Bushelako military training camp that makes them able to defend their country. Top military personnel were present at the graduation ceremony. The graduation came hours after the Ethiopian government declared a unilateral ceasefire in the state of Tigray.
The Nile's main source, the Blue Nile, starts in Ethiopia, at Lake Tana. The river flows towards Sudan and joins the river's other tributary at Sudan's capital, Khartoum, before heading downstream to Egypt. GERD is being built here, on the border with Sudan, near the Blue Nile source. The dam will catch water in its massive reservoir, whose surface area is larger than that of Greater London.
Ambo residents of the state of Oromia expressed readiness to extend their support to finalize the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam project. The state of Amhara also collected more than 13 million birr over the past 10 months to support the construction of GERD. Talking to ETV, the residents called upon the general public to reaffirm commitment to finalize the mega project. Haptam Ashagri tells us more.
The overall construction of GERD has reached over 80%, and activities are well in progress to undertake the second reservoir filling activities. Talking to ETV, residents of Ambo of the state of Oromia called upon the general public to restore peace and security activities so as to keep safe to the flagship project. Residents added the second water filling activity of GERD is critical and the realization of the mega project is vital to enhance the nation's development.
በዚህ በአባይ ጉዳይ ማለት የኢትዮጵያ የህልውና ጉዳይ ስለሆነ ማንኛውም ኢትዮጵያዊ
The issue of the Apai River is a matter of existence for all Ethiopians. Everyone needs to stand together for the realization of good. We have to understand the value of our nation, and it's important to maintain peace.
አገር ካለች ነው መኖር የሚችለው አገር ከሌለች ማንም ሰው መኖር
ሁለተኛ ዙር የአባይ ውሃ ሙሌት እንደ አገር የምንጠብቀው ሁላችንም ከኪስ አዋጥተን
As a nation, we are financing to realize the second reservoir filling of good. These hopes bring better development in the nation. As an Ethiopian, I think no one can begin to give up on this objective. Thus, we have to execute the second filling of the dam.
እናስጨርሳለን ሁላችንም ያለንን
The state of Amhara collected more than 13 million birr over the past 10 months to realize the construction of good. Apart financing good, further efforts are well underway to undertake 3 settling activities to protect the good from unnecessary siltation.
ገና የመጀመሪያው አንደኛ ዙር የውሃ ሙሌት ከተሞላ በኋላ የነበረው እንቅስቃሴ በጣም የተጠናከረ ነው።
After the first water filling of good, there were active public mobilization activities. Youth, farmers, business community, among others, are financing to support the realization of good. This demonstrates the integrity of the Ethiopian people to finalize the construction of good. The negotiation between Ethiopia, Sudan and Egypt is in a deadlock. The 3 countries failed to strike a fair deal. Ethiopia chose African Union mediation over any external mediator, while Sudan and Egypt resort to the UNSC to internationalize the matter. Though Ethiopia respects the agreements it signed with the 2, both have reportedly been breaching it. Sintayo Tamrat reports.
While Ethiopia prefers the EU-led trilateral negotiation over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Egypt and Sudan have been opting to the involvement of parties other than Africans and the African Union. President of US-based IPAC Global, a movement that advocates robust Ethio-America ties, says the Nile is an African river and disputes over this river shall be solved by Africans.
Even if we insist on having somebody else to sit on the negotiating table, I believe the AU is the most relevant and logical observer because this is an African river and we are talking about 10 different African countries in Northeast Africa and in Eastern Africa. Okay, so logically the most relevant observer to this is the African Union.
Haymanot is skeptic that other mediators younger than African nations may serve the interests of their friends.
If you consider other parties like the US, EU, and the UN, they will always have their own self-interest when they come to the negotiating table. Trust me, they will not have Ethiopia's self-interest at heart. So when they come to the table, including the Arab League, they will have their own interest or the interests of their friends, okay? Or powerful friends or strategically important friends. So for this reason, I don't believe these parties we mentioned earlier, the US, the Europeans, or the Arab League will be impartial to these negotiations. When you look back in history, these countries and these parties are always have colonial, transactional, and imperialistic ambitions in Africa. So in these negotiations, it is more than reasonable to think that they will have the same attitudes once again. So they will try to force and squeeze Ethiopia to agree to something that is not favorable to Ethiopia and Ethiopians.
A Pan-Africanist researcher from the Netherlands says much as Ethiopia respects the agreements it signed with Sudan and Egypt, downstream countries are repeatedly breaching it.
They do have an agreement in 2015 with that DOP, which clearly stipulates that any issue between these 3 tripartite countries should be resolved within them without any fourth party involvement. And as we have seen, this was breached in 2019 by Egypt when they turned to the US. Ethiopia innocently accepted that, and US has led the negotiation. Actually, there were observers from October to February until Ethiopia walked out of that negotiation when they see the final resolution, which only serves the interest of Egypt.
Ethiopia is preparing to undertake the second phase filling of the Gerd reservoir in July.
አሰራሩ በጎንደር ከተማ ከሚገኙ የአብያተ መንግስታት ግብረ ህንጻዎች ጋር በእጅጉ ይመሳሰላል። እነዚህ የጎንደር ተከታታይ ነገስታት በኢትዮጵያ ዛሬም ድረስ የሚጎበኙ ድንቅ የታሪክ አሻራዎችን ጥለውልን አልፈዋል። ከዛ መካከል አንዱ ይህ የጉዛራ ቤተ መንግስት ነው።
Welcome back. You're watching Addis News Hour. The Kenyan delegation led by Raila Odinga, African Union High Representative for Infrastructure Development, has visited the Labu station of the Ethiopia-Djibouti railway line. During the visit, the delegation has been briefed on the operations and major achievements of the electrified standard gauge railway, which connects Ethiopia with Djibouti. Ethiopia, South Sudan and Kenya have signed an agreement for the establishment of a steering committee for the Lapset Corridor project. The signing aims to deepen the cooperation among these three countries in the implementation of the project. On in business, Kenya says it is ready to attract massive cargo transport business from Ethiopia and other neighboring countries in Port Lamu. The country also finalized cargo evacuation roads from Lamu Port to Ethiopia's border Moyale. Demis Mokrel reports.
This is the northern coastal area in Kenya, where the country is constructing the Lamu port, which is the second port to Kenya next to Mombasa. Lamu port is part of an ambitious transport corridor named Lapset, which is believed to integrate Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Sudan in different infrastructure projects. Ethiopia is dominantly using Port Djibouti for its external trade, and it accounts for over 90% of the country's import and export items. But now Lamu port is being constructed in Kenya, and it is believed to add options in the port menu for Ethiopia. Ethiopian ambassador to Kenya, Males Halem, upon visiting the Lamu port, said Ethiopia is currently working to diversify port access, and he mentioned Port Lamu as an excellent outlet to Ethiopia.
You know, the ports that we use are Djibouti, Port Sudan, and probably in near futures ports that belongs to Eritrea. They have their own proximity to different parts of Ethiopia. If you want to bring producers from southwestern, southeastern part of Ethiopia, Lamu is an ideal choice. The devil is in the details, of course. But as far as Ethiopia is concerned, we need many port alternatives. And the LAPSET will come up with the Lamu project, which is a best case in point.
Port Lamu will have 32 berths when it gets fully constructed, but now Kenya is working to realize the first 3 berths only. Lamu Port General Manager Abdullahi Samatra said the first berth was already commenced and ready to attract bulky cargo transport business from Ethiopia and other neighboring countries.
Once we integrate with the business people in Ethiopia, they will have now. They will welcome to come and participate in using this port, and will provide efficient services. That one we are assuring the people of Ethiopia, and also to secure their cargo through the port of Lamu. Port of Lamu basically is now ready. We should expect by the end of the year to really commission it, and we are also planning to bring in the equipment that is required for the operations.
Kenya is currently building LAPSET road links to connect Port Lamu with Ethiopia. LAPSET project regional manager Salim Bunu said the cargo evacuation route from Port Lamu to Ethiopia border Moyale is being done and becoming ready for cargo evacuation in the near future.
We have a very good road network. The government of Kenya has really committed itself to make sure this project really take off, and it is very serious about this project. So as Kenyan government, the infrastructure has really improved, and we are very much ready for business to this port of Lamu. All the cargo evacuation route is ready. The security network is very ready. There is a lot of improvement in security. There are security camps all over the corridor, so that the flow of goods and the flow of human beings is non-interrupted. So we are very much ready for business. We welcome the Ethiopian businessmen and the Ethiopian government to start using Lamu Port and use this good infrastructure that is ready.
In the northern part of Kenya, right here at the offshore of Indian Ocean, Kenya is constructing one of its deep sea ports. The first phase of this project was partially completed, and it was inaugurated in the presence of Kenya President Uhuru Kenyatta. This Lamu port is believed to foster Ethiopia's import and export in the years to come, on top of Djibouti and other port alternatives. Reporting to ETV, James Mercurial, Lamu, Kenya.